Oh my goodness, look at that. For those of us who have been working in the woods, who have spent much of our lives out in the woods, there's one thing that strikes terror in us like nothing else. It's not bears, it's not mountain lions, it's that, a yellowjacket nest. In my early days of working in the woods, I used to run into yellowjacket nests all the time, which would often look something like this. Oh, oh, oh! But over the decades, I have learned how to avoid their nests. I rarely get stung anymore. I'm going to show you how you can do the same, and you're not even going to have to buy anything. The reason I rarely get stung is because I've learned to know where the nest is before I ever get tangled up with it. I can do that because I know how to look for the signs. One of the major things that makes yellowjackets so dangerous, they build their nests underground, which makes them hard to see. A lot of times people won't even know they're there until they're standing on top of them. That's the point where they will very quickly make you very aware that you just walked over their nest, which they do in their own special kind of way. At that moment, people also learn the other reason why yellowjackets are so dangerous, which is their nasty dispositions, which they will demonstrate in an instant all-out air attack on you. That's the common method most people use for finding their nest, but I have never been a big fan of that method. I've always found it to be a little too... I've just never been a big fan of it. Over the years, I've discovered it's much more pleasant to find them before they find me, so I can go around them instead of going right over the top of them. In order to do that, we need to know what to look for. Yellowjackets will typically start building their nest in a natural hole in the ground, like a rodent hole that can have a clear flight path around it. That way they can easily fly in and out of their nest without having a bunch of obstacles to have to crawl through, which is a good thing because that can make them easier to see. One of the most difficult things about spotting yellowjacket nests is you're going to have a significant amount of awareness. There are some aspects of modern life that could make that a little bit difficult. Sometimes you gotta watch out for stuff. If you can be aware, a lot of times you can spot them when you see a place with a curious stream of air traffic flying in and out of the ground. Just like that spot right there. That is a well-developed nest well into the season when they've had plenty of time to build up their numbers. That's when they can be really dangerous because there could be hundreds or thousands of them in a nest. But it can also be a good thing because if there's a lot of air traffic, it makes it a lot easier to spot them. A lot of the times when I would get in trouble with them would be early in the season when the populations were still low. They didn't have that obvious stream of air traffic. But that doesn't mean we can't still see them when they're small if we know what to look for. A lot of it starts with choosing my path where I walk. As much as I can, I try to choose places to walk where I can see the ground, not only in front of me, but a safe distance out to the side of me as I can. If I see a spot where there's something flying up or down, I'll take note of it. If I notice a hole, I'll take note of it. But in a split moment, I can see nothing flying out of it. The area around here does not look used. If you notice the nest, the area around it looks used. I see the old remnants of a stump here. There are a couple holes right there. But if I look around this hole, all the leaves and needles, they look like they just fell there. Nothing's been using this, nothing's been moving things around. I can instantly see that's not a nest. The ground around here, I can see there are no holes. There are no yellowjackets. These are just split moment observations. I'm hardly putting any energy into it. No more than I would put into, poison oak. Oh, there's a stick there that I shouldn't trip over. As long as we're aware of what's around us, I don't think any of us have to put conscious thought into, oh, there's a tree in my way. I better go around it so I don't bump into it. We just do these things automatically without even thinking about it. That's the way I want you to be when it comes to yellowjackets and hornets. We're getting more off the beaten path now, but still I choose to go through an area where it's more open, where I can be more aware of the ground. I can still look around, look at the scenery, and be aware of what's on the ground at the same time. I think there are a lot of aspects of modern life that have got us in the habit of focusing our view in one spot. Focused view is good, but our peripheral vision can come in handy too. Sometimes that focused view is what finds that hole that ends up being a nest. But keeping that peripheral vision going too, a lot of times that's how I see the air traffic off in the distance in my out of the corner of my eye. If I get into more of a tight place like this where we have obstacles, we're walking right by a place where there could be a yellowjacket nest tucked up under a log. A place like this, I'm going to tighten up my vision, give it a little more focus. If I get to a place like this where there's a lot of debris on the ground, I can't see the ground as well. It's covering it up. So in a place like this, I'm going to be a little more cautious. I think any of us, when we get to a spot where we have obstacles to navigate through, naturally, without thinking about it, we're going to be more careful so we don't trip over it. It's the same with the yellowjackets. Get to a place like this, be a little more cautious. As we get into more of an open place where we can be more aware of the ground, we can relax some, be in more of a regular state of awareness instead of a little more heightened state of awareness. Here's something I imagine most people would never even consider. Couple logs right here. Anywhere along these logs there could be a hidden yellowjacket nest underneath. It's not uncommon for them to find holes under logs like this and build their nest. This feels kind of weird. It's like I'm trying to teach people how to walk. But as I've seen a lot of people try to flounder their way through the woods, maybe it's not such an unreasonable thing. If I step over these logs, if I step here and here, the only places I am disturbing are here and here. But if I was to step on the log or clumsily kick the log as I'm stepping over it, that disturbance will vibrate down the length of the log. If there's a nest there, and if you so dare to send just the minutest of vibration into their precious little nest, they will come after you in a full-on air attack. Just things to think about as you're walking through the woods. Not something to be paranoid about, just something to include in the habits of the way you walk. At least during yellowjacket season. If I get to something like this, I can't see what's on the other side of that log. Could be a yellowjacket nest, could be a rattlesnake, I don't know. In this case, I might actually step on the log and risk disturbing it. I don't want to step right next to the log because I can't see what's right in front of my foot. But if I go from a distance, step on the log, I don't want to step right here because I can't see what's underneath it. I like to step away from the log where I can see all around where I'm stepping. My peripheral vision, notice, is a hole over here. I direct my focus on it for a moment. Notice it's not a yellowjacket nest. Nothing flying around it. It doesn't have that lived-in look. Along with keeping our eyes in the open position to look out for these, we should also be keeping our ears in the open position, listening for them. They buzz. If you hear a bunch of buzzing over there, take note of it. Then look, see what's going on. We'll get more into that later. We're still working on the visual part, which may not come naturally for a lot of people. If you don't have years of experience looking out for yellowjacket nests, in the beginning, you might have to put more conscious thought and effort into it. Instead of being able to walk relaxed out in the woods with all of this just automatically running in your background without you thinking about it, in the beginning, you might have to have more intentional focus. But that's the way it is with a lot of things. You have to put a lot of energy into being not good at something at the beginning until you get to a point where you're good at it and you don't have to put very much energy into being good at it. This all reminds me of something my cousin's wife said a few years ago, something I never thought of, but I think she was right, and I thought it was a brilliant observation. We were out looking for morel mushrooms. My cousin and I were finding them all over the place, but his wife and whoever else was with us, they were having a hard time finding them. We were watching them looking for them. We could see there are mushrooms right in front of you, but you're having a hard time seeing them. After a while of that, she said, I just got distracted by what looks like a bear jaw. She said the reason you guys are able to find them so easily is because you are out in the woods so much, you are so familiar with what the ground normally looks like. You have a natural baseline for what is normal on the ground. For us, when that baseline normal gets interrupted by a mushroom sticking out of it, it pops out at us. For those who don't spend so much time in the woods, it just blends in with everything else. I imagine it could be similar when it comes to finding yellowjacket nests. If you are having a hard time with this, if you're going out in the woods and you're still finding them the old-fashioned way, where they find you first and they let you know about it in their own special kind of way, with the sharp pointy thing on the end of their butts, I think the solution to that is the same solution I give to a lot of people when I try to help them with their problems, which is, you need to spend more time in the woods. In some parts of the woods, walking on the logs can be the easiest route, especially in places where there are a bunch of logs in the way. Keep in mind what we discussed earlier. If you move a log, you are disturbing the whole length of the log. If you do, try to be quiet, listen for the buzz. If you have earbuds in, you're listening, you're just asking for trouble with that out in the woods. If I move something and suddenly hear that angry yellowjacket buzz, that's when I know it's time to make my quick exit. There's a big difference between the sound of an angry yellowjacket nest that just got disturbed and yellowjackets just buzzing around. Knowing the difference between the two can be a useful bit of information. So many times I see people freaking out over the wrong things. They freak out over a lone yellowjacket just buzzing around being a yellowjacket. Most of the time all they're doing is just looking for food. It's hard to blame them for that. Sometimes I go around looking for food too, because food tastes good. Instead of freaking out over something like a lone yellowjacket calmly buzzing around, I think it's better to observe it. Get to know its patterns, its behaviors. Like Sun Tzu said, know your enemy. If you know your enemy, that gives you the advantage. If you freak out over your enemy, that gives your enemy the advantage. I'm not sure if Sun Tzu said that last part. I may have just made that up. Either way, freaking out over little things doesn't do good things for your image, although it can be entertaining to other people. I guess it all depends on what your priorities are. One of the secrets of life is knowing which things to freak out about and knowing which things to not freak out about. Most things are not worth freaking out about. But when you have an angry yellowjacket nest after you, that's when you might want to consider freaking out. I was hoping to find another yellowjacket nest on this walk just so I could show off my abilities to safely find them. But so far, it's not working out very well. Some animals like bears and skunks are really good at finding yellowjacket nests. They hunt for the nests, then dig them up. Here's an example of that right here. You have to be careful approaching something like this because there could still be some in there if it's fresh. This one looked like it happened a while back. I don't see any. It looks like that nest has been quite thoroughly destroyed. But if there are any still around, they might still have a bad attitude. They might be holding a grudge for what happened to their nest. As large as the disturbed area is around here, my guess is it was a bear. I've seen a lot of people assume the reason something would do this would be to get to the honey. There is no honey. These are yellowjackets. They're not honeybees. Honeybees make honey. Yellowjackets specialize in bad attitudes. That's about all they make. That and a nest. When something digs up a nest, they do it so they can eat the protein-rich larvae inside. Yellowjackets are a type of a wasp. They are not bees at all. It's important to be aware of what's happening on the ground, but we don't only want to focus on the ground. We also want to look up and around so we don't get tangled up with the other bad attitude of the forest. The good thing about hornets, they build their nest above ground where it's easier to see them, but only if you're paying attention. The bad thing about them, I think their stings hurt even more than yellowjackets. I've been stung just by being too close to them. I'm a little close for comfort right now. I'm going to steer clear of there because I'm reminded of the words of a duck named Daffy, who put it best when he said, "I'm not like other people. I don't like pain. It hurts me, Where you can really get into trouble with those if you're going through the brush, through the trees, where there are branches, limbs, things in your way, it's hard to see what's in front of you, then all of a sudden you're right in the middle of one of those. This is all the more reason to pick routes that are more open, where you can see what's around you. And no, there is no honey in there. Those are not bees, those are hornets. We won't spend so much time on hornets like we did yellowjackets because a hornet nest is so much more obvious and easy to see. That's all fine and dandy for walking around in the woods, but what if you're out working? What if you're running a chainsaw, mowing, you have all that noise and drama around you? It's a little hard to be aware when all that's going on. Yeah, that's a problem. That's where a lot of us run into problems. The best I've been able to come up with that is scout the area first. Go in when it's quiet, observe, listen, look for places where something might be flying in and out of the ground. Look up into the trees and into the brush for hornet nests, especially the trees you're going to be cutting down. Notice these papery pieces of nest on the ground that sometimes flake off from a hornet nest up in the trees above. It's not ideal, it's not 100% effective. It's going to take some extra time that you might not want to spend, but I guess it's up to you to decide if it's worth it or not. We talked about 2 different ways to find yellowjacket nests before they find us, but there's a third way to find them that I think is much easier and far more accurate. Well, it's easier for us anyway. When you see it, it'll be a no-doubt way to know there's a yellowjacket nest in that spot, then you can avoid the area. The way you'll know is when you see somebody else doing what I call the yellowjacket dance. It's an unmistakable sign, you'll know it when you see it. When a body experiences trauma, it tends to go into a fight or flight response. The yellowjacket dance is the result of the body trying to go into a fight and flight response at the same time, which it does not do well. The dance starts at the same moment the yellowjackets declare war and launch their all-out air attack. The body quickly becomes aware of the situation from the sharp, painful stings it starts to feel. The body responds to those stings with the fight response, which usually materializes something like swatting at whatever spot it's feeling those stings, trying to fight the threat. At the same time, the body starts going into a flight response, which is the instinct to run away, get away from danger. The legs start going, but there's so much energy going into fight, the run doesn't fully materialize. It ends up looking something more like this. Until at some point, the body realizes, oh yeah, I need to run away. If you're ever out in the woods and you see something like that, it's a surefire way to know, oh, there's a yellowjacket nest over there. I probably should avoid that area. The hornet dance goes a little bit differently, but we're mostly talking about yellowjackets today, so we'll save that for another time. Another identifying characteristic of the yellowjacket dance, if it's someone you know, you may very quickly discover a side of them you've never seen before. You may also hear them come up with some interesting word combinations you never would imagine they would have came up with. There you have it, How to Avoid Yellowjackets 101. I was hoping to find at least one more nest today so I could show you more examples, but that didn't work out. I have an assignment for you. Go out into the woods or whatever outdoors you have access to. Start observing the buzzing insects flying around. Notice how a lot of them just buzz around, they're looking for food. Learn what they sound like. Learn their behavior. Start looking at holes in the ground. Notice them. Pay attention to what normal holes in the ground look like. So when you see an anomalous hole, you can pay more attention to it. Look for air traffic flying in and out of the ground. Notice bugs just flying around. Notice their horizontal patterns, their normal flight patterns versus that up and down pattern going into a hole. If there's enough interest in the subject, maybe we'll do Yellowjackets 102, take a deeper dive. Until then, you can watch this video where I'll show you how you can avoid getting bit by ticks.